down to business. So if you're just joining us, let me just recap. We had a season of prayer already for Greg, who is battling COVID-19, who is the executive director for World Missions. And so he is taking a turn for the worse this afternoon and is in urgent need of prayer this evening. So please keep him and Sandy, their family, lifted up in prayer, because they can't be with him because of the situation. And it's just very, very, very dire situation this afternoon with Greg. I just got off the phone earlier with Doug Clay, our general superintendent, lovingly just called to pray for Reese and I and all of you as a point of contact through us. And I appreciated that so much. And he just simply was pretty much without words for Greg's situation. He said it's just very critically serious. So we want to be much in prayer throughout the evening for Greg, as we've already been here together. And we know the Lord's heard that prayer, whether all of you got to participate in it or not. We know 2 or 3 are gathered together virtually and agreeing and touching any one thing, it will be done. So we thank the Lord for his healing touch in advance for Greg today. So there's several things that we want to share with you this afternoon before we go into the main part of today's webinar, which Brother Mark will be hosting that portion of the webinar today concerning the CARE Act. But first of all, we just want to tell you that I've been watching several press conferences today with the governor. As you know, South Florida, several counties there, they put them basically in whatever you want to call it, lockdown or shelter at home or whatever, really tightened the restrictions in Southern Florida. That's one of the big breaking news pieces today. Of course, they are now, their checkpoints on I-10 and on I-95, and the governor said probably will be opening them on I-75 coming into the state, trying to limit the number of people coming from hotspot areas into the state of Florida. So we're thankful for any help they can give us in that. The big piece of news this week was what we expected. Didn't quite expect it to be as big as it was, that the president stated that he was going to extend his recommendations that were originally for 15 days. He was going to extend those until April 30th. And so it would help a whole lot if we could begin to meet again, but it doesn't look like that's going to be happening anytime in the near future. And all of that will be clarified more tomorrow by the president's office. And once we get a little bit better clarification from the president and see exactly how our governor is responding to that as well, then we will come back and meet again later in the week and deal just with that and what it really means for our churches and where we're now postured and what that's going to look like for possibly the next 30 days. And I know that that's very difficult to even begin to think about, but let me tell you, I am so proud of all of you and the job that you did on Sunday. Reese and I were just blessed to see so many of your services, and they range all over the place from style and type. Some were super creative in that they were doing drive-in church. Some were out in the woods on a walking trail preaching their sermon. I mean, can you imagine? It was powerful. Others were, a little bit more studio produced, and they were very well done. But every one of them had their own individual flavor that was just, I think it was super. I think it was a really great, and everybody's having to stretch themselves, but you're all doing a wonderful job doing it. And I think that, to the best of my knowledge, then again, we don't know everything, but boy, Facebook is a tell-all, I'll tell you, in some respects. I think we probably are at about 95% compliance, maybe a little bit higher, of churches that have understood this is a very serious situation, and we're going to obey those in authority over us. So our continued position, and I know you've probably heard it until you're tired of hearing it, but our position is we will follow the recommendations of all federal, state, and local government and officials that speak to us, because we just believe that's the right thing to do. This is obviously something unprecedented for our nation, and it sure is for us as a church in modern history. But God's going to see us through it, and we're going to come through it. We'll talk more about that and how that kind of lays out for the next few weeks and what we can do maybe to help you with some of those things as walk through this a little bit more. That'll be later on this week. We'll let you know when we're going to do that. Okay. Our team's all working very hard. We're still working remotely. The district offices are not open. If you need to drop off or pick up something from there, you need to call ahead. The regular phone numbers are answered during regular business hours. And I think most all of you have our team's cell phone numbers, and you know that you can contact us anytime. We'll help you any way that we can. Okay. So there's much that we could say. One of the big news items today is what happened in South Florida Sunday when one of well-known evangelists that is a very worldwide known name announced that he was having services in spite of the state regulations, and he was arrested today because of it. A mega church, and he packed hundreds of people in there, and he is in a hot spot in an area that's really experiencing a lot of cases, and they're not playing. And so he was arrested today. I don't know all the latest details of it, but it is very serious. And I think that we need to all understand that our officials are taking this serious because lives are at stake, and that's not what we want to be our tag right now. So I thank you for doing that. Thank you for adhering to the regulations. I thank you for staying with us so well, and we appreciate you so very, very much. Okay, so let me go ahead and transition out of this, and I'll try to answer a few of these texts that are coming in to me to try to help folks know what we're recommending for them to do if they're not on the call and they're trying to get on it. But Brother Mark has been working very hard. His face has been in the computer and his ear to the phone just about constantly for the last 4 or 5 days, 6 days, trying to glean all of the information that he could, along with his team, trying to put together some things that will help us. So what I've asked him to do today is put this in a simplified format based on the various sources that he has been able to tap into, and to tell us, what he is experiencing or what he's learning from what he has heard, and kind of how that's going to apply to our West Florida district churches. So, Brother Mark, if you're ready, we'll go ahead and go straight to you. And I know that you've got some visuals, and I'll try to answer some of these questions, and I'll be able to maybe possibly figure out how to stop those dings from my phone, from my computer. All right. Thank you, Brother Mark.
You're more than welcome. Hey, good evening, everyone. We trust that you are weathering this storm, if you would, well, and we pray for your safety and well-being, and thank you, along with the superintendent. Thank you for everything that you do in the kingdom of God, and you are to be commended, rightfully so. So we love and appreciate you very much. So listen, we're going to take the next few moments, talk about some things. Let me give this disclaimer up front. You know, I am not a CPA. I am not an attorney. I did not help write this bill and not read the 900-page bill, okay? So I'm not trying to give you any certified, licensed, official advice or anything. Just we want to talk about what we believe is taking place within the stimulus package that was passed and signed into law on Friday. And just to give you a little update about that. So as the superintendent said, we're not going to try to take you deep into the weeds with this. There's a lot of resources out there. There's a lot of information, a lot of websites, a lot of video interviews, things that are going on. We'll give you some resources at the end of this that hopefully will help you. We know many of you are keeping up with all of this, and so I don't want to be elementary with you, or I don't want to be redundant with you, but we want to make sure that all of our churches have a good understanding of what a part of this stimulus package means to the church. So Craig's going to go and help me put some slides, some pictures, some PowerPoint stuff up along the way. And let's just start with the opening. The 2020 CARES Act. Thank you, Brother Craig. So the CARES Act, CARES is an acronym, and it simply stands for or means the Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. Now, I'm not sure if there's going to be a delay between what I'm saying and what you're seeing, but Craig, next slide, if you could, please. So that's where you can see that's where the acronym comes from. And we know that what's on their minds, the politicians, our government officials, our leaders, is the economic security issue. And that's where the name comes from. What everyone, I believe, really understands in leadership is that this virus and its impact really does jeopardize the world's economy, including our own here in the United States. So the federal government is doing everything it can to provide some stability during this challenging time. And I think it's a good time to remind us of a couple things. Number one, in reality, how frail we are, how limited we are, but more importantly, how big God is. And so we are going to appreciate and commend our national leaders for their efforts to bring some economic security, some stability. But ultimately, we all understand as a church that our government leaders are not our source. They could be a resource, is not our source. It could be a resource, but we know God is our source. But with the package that was passed and the financial implications, what does that mean to a church? Let's kind of get into this part of it. So in the massive $2.2 trillion assistance bill, there was $349 billion that is set aside for small business loans. Now, 2.2 trillion versus 349 billion, that may be kind of a drop in the bucket per se, but $3.5 billion is nothing to sneeze at, okay? It should be appreciated. It's a great effort. And the beautiful thing about the small businesses is that churches are included in this package of being eligible to receive these funds. So small businesses are defined as employers that have under 500 employees. And it also includes 501c3 organizations such as the district and your church. And so that's a great thing that in this instance, churches are being included in the relief, the economic relief help, the finances that are available. And so, we ought to thank the Lord for that. It's again, He's providing for the church in a unique way that we maybe have not even seen before. So let's look at what is the heart of this $349 billion that's available to small businesses and church organizations. At the heart of it is this. It's all about the payroll protection program. Okay, so the government's intent of assisting small businesses, churches, etc. You can go on, Craig. It's designed to help employers retain their employees. So in other words, it's about keeping people employed. Again, so last week when we had over 3 million new unemployment claims, our government leaders, they know how massive this could get, how high the unemployment rate could go if everyone, because they are not allowed to go to work, because they're having to shelter in place, because places, cities, states are being shut down, the economic impact could be overwhelming to everyone. So the government's doing their very best to keep people employed. Now, when we're looking at that $349 billion, what kind of money is possible then that could be available to churches or small businesses? Well, there is a payroll formula outlined by the act itself that was passed that is used to determine the answer. So if you are a small business, and pastors, I would be making sure that small business owners in your church are fully aware of this provision. And pastors, the reason we're talking to you about it, ministers, is because we want you as a church as an entity, as an organization, that you are eligible for these funds. We want you to know about these funds available as well. So what is that formula? What does it look like? Well, the best way to do it is to kind of just give you a little example. And I'm not sure if you actually can see that on the screen or not, but let me walk you through this very quickly. So the formula that's used involves your payroll at your organization or our churches, okay? What's required is that you look at 12 months prior to receiving or applying for these funds. So we're now on the verge of April 2020. So if we go back 12 months, that would be April of 19 through March of 20. And what they're going to ask for is, what is your average payroll? And so we put a chart together to kind of outline what they're asking for and what that would look like. So in payroll example number 1, you can see the 12 months that are listed. And then we have an employee. His name is John Doe. John Doe is the only employee of this church. Obviously, it's probably a smaller church, okay? John Doe doesn't make a huge salary. The church pays Pastor Doe $300 a week. So how many weeks were in April? Okay, and there was 4. How many weeks were in May? Well, there was 4. How many weeks in June? Well, there was 5. So you can see under the salary, there is $1,200 and $1,200 and $1,500. It goes all the way across left to right and lists out how much per month that pastor was paid in total compensation, salary, benefits, everything. Now, there's another figure that can go into this payroll calculation, and that is non-employee compensation. So you'll see in this example that in June, there was $1,000 expensed, and it was listed under a 1099, a miscellaneous 1099 form. So in June, this church held a VBS, and they paid their guest $1,000. That can count in your calculations and in this formula. You'll also see one more thing. Over in September, this church, they held a revival, and they paid their guest speaker $1,200. So when you look at this sample, when you add up the 12-month payroll, that's all the income the pastor made, and the non-employee payroll compensation for the 2 examples I gave you on the 1099s, the total was $17,800. When you divide that by 12 months, you come up with an average. The average monthly salary or payroll expenses totals $1,483.33. Again, that may be small. You can't see it. I'm not sure, but that's what the numbers are. What the federal government did is they're saying, we're going to give you some money to keep people employed at your organization, and we're going to give you 2.5 months worth. So this is the formula they're using to figure out what that amount is. So in our calculation here, the $1,483 a month times 2.5 times comes up to a total of $3,708.33. So in this example for this church, that would be the amount of money available to the church in the form of a loan, $3,700. Now, if you're a small church, that's not bad. Let me give you one more example real quick. Let's use just a little bit larger one, but not by any means excessive. So in this example, we did the same thing. This church has several employees. You have John Doe who's pastoring. He makes $1,000 a week. You have Billy Bob, who is an associate, and he makes $500 a week. You have Susie Q. She's the church secretary, and she gets paid $400 a week. And then there's Tiny Tim, and Tiny Tim, he mows the grass, and he gets $200 a month. So when we're looking at putting in these numbers, you're looking for the total compensation. In this example too, there's actually 3 1099 miscellaneous activities where people got paid, just not on a regular basis. You end up with a total payroll for the year of just under $105,000. You divide that by 12 to come up with a monthly average for total payroll. All right, that monthly average is $8,741.67. If you multiply that by 2.5 times, that total is $21,854.17. So the government is saying to this entity, you're eligible for a loan of $21,854. Now, your church may be larger. Maybe your average monthly payroll expenses is 2 or 3 times the size, 4 times the size, whatever it may be. So we're looking at, this is how they're figuring how much money your church could be eligible for. Listen, if you're a small church and you're, every $2,000 or $3,000 check is a huge gift, this is why we need to be looking at the possibility here. Let's go on just a little bit. So if you were to, great question, Jeff. Let me just answer it while we're right here. In that payroll example, Jeff Scalf is asking, in a total compensation, does that include housing? And here's the answer to the best of our abilities. Nobody has said not to include it. Everyone that I'm reading after, listening to, they're all saying at the moment, because it's not excluded, go ahead and include it. Now, let me give you one more caveat here before I move on. For larger churches where pastors may make a large or a larger compensation package, there is an upper limit to this. The limit is total $100,000 that you're eligible for, okay, in terms of counting a payroll package. So, if you make 110,000, you can't just divide that by 12 and come up with it. You can only use 100,000, divide that by 12, and you come up with your number. Okay. So whatever number you may be eligible for, this is how it's figured. Now, what can these funds be used for? Well, for your church, it could be used for payroll, obviously, but it can also be used for mortgage payments, should you have one, or rent, should you be renting your facilities, your utilities, and then actually interest on any other debt payments you may have. Okay, so the funds are really designed, while it's based on payroll only, the window is a little bit bigger of what you can use these funds for. Now, here's a big question, because everyone's concerned about separation of church and state. Are there any strings attached? And the answer, to the best of everyone's ability, is no. There are no strings attached. We are now in at least in this moment of time, where because these funds are being offered to nonprofits, they could not discriminate against the church because we're a nonprofit. So we're all included. There's no agenda. There's no strings. Now, even though there's no strings to this money, to this the option of applying for it, is there normal and reasonable accountability tied to it? Yes, there is. As we look at it, there's nothing out of the ordinary, though, that we should be concerned about that says, well, we're a church and we don't want to receive government money. Okay, there are no strings to this. So let me answer this question. How do you apply for this type of a loan? All right. In a nutshell, you are to contact your local lender. Now, here's the reality tonight. They are probably still in the dark about how all of this is going to work. All right, I'll give you an example. I went to our local lending institution, our local bank that the district uses, and I started asking about applying for this loan. They did not have a clue. This process regarding the CARES Act is designed to go through your local small business association lender, which is going to be a bank or of some sort. Now, here's the complication, here's the confusion, and there's a lot of it today, a lot of it today. There are currently two different programs out there with the SBA, or the Small Business Association. One is the SBA's Disaster Relief Fund. That's not what we're talking about, and that right now is what the banks are knowledgeable of. And so they're sending everyone who's asking these questions, they're sending them to the SBA, or Small Business Association, to their website. That's not where we're talking about going. That's not the provision that we're referring to. We're referring to the CARES Act. Do not apply, do not fill out a form yet. In fact, some people I understand already have applied for disaster relief funds. They filled out applications. The application for this is not even available yet, okay? So just let's kind of be clear of what we're referring to. We're referring to the CARES Act, and that is designed to go through a local lender. Even if they tell you tomorrow, never heard of it, go to this website. No, just hang on, it is coming. Remember, this act was just signed into law Friday. If you were able to secure, so you applied and you were able to get in on these funds and you were able to receive a loan, what does that mean? How does that get paid back? The answer to that question is found in another formula, which is tied to FTEs, okay, or full-time employees, or full-time employee equivalents, okay? So let me define that by this example. The number of full-time employees that you have at your church back on February 15th through what's coming up at the upcoming June 30th timeframe of 2020. Let's just say from February to the end of June, you have 7 full-time employees. Okay, that may be 6 full-time employees and 2 part-time employees. So it's an equivalent of full-time. If you take the number 7 employees divided by the number of full-time employees you had from the same time period last year, from February 15th to 2030, but of 2019. You take this year's number divided by last year's number, and in this equation, it equals 116%. So in other words, this year, this example had 1 more employee than it even did the last year. That's a 16 or 17% increase. Well, that sounds great. Let's give another example. Example number 2. Number of full-time employees from February 15th to June 30th of 2020. Okay, we hadn't even got to that date yet. Okay, so this is not going to be, you're not going to get the answer to everything yet, but this is the formula. Let's just say there was 3. If we look back to the same time frame a year ago, this church had 3 full-time employees or equivalents. Well, that equals 100%. There's no increase or no decrease. All right, so we had the first one, they actually increased employees during this difficult time. This example, there's no change. Now, you could change people, but we're talking about not individuals, just the numbers. Let's go to example 3. The number of full-time employees from February 15th to June 30th of 2020 was 1. So this year, this church has 1 employee right now. Divided by the number of full-time employees from the same time frame of last year, and they had 3. So all of a sudden, from a year ago, they had 3 to now they have 1. Well, now that's a total of 33.33%, or 1/3. Well, that indicates a decrease of 66.67%, okay, less. So you have less employees this year. What does that mean? Let's go on to the next slide. The loan payback requirements are based on those numbers. So after June 30th, 2020, the government will ask, how many employees do you have? If you have less employees, say example 3, because they had less, than you did the previous period or the previous year there, the percentage less equals the amount of the loan you will have to pay back. So in 2 examples, they may get money, whatever it is, but they don't have to pay anything back. It's only if you have less employees or the equivalent, okay, full-time employees or the equivalent, if you have less, you will have to pay back the difference. So in the example number 3, well, they would have to pay back 2/3 of the loan. Let's say they got $10,000 and they have to pay 2/3 of it back. The loan then, that repayment that is required to be paid back, is amortized over a 10-year term at 4% or less, and those payments don't begin until 12 months after receiving the loan. Okay, let's go to the next one, because this is exciting. Loan forgiveness. So for those employers, your church, who retains 100% or a higher equivalent, the loan will be forgiven, totally forgiven, no payback required. So if your church were to get 3,000 or 5,000 or 20,000 or 50,000, and you keep employed the same number of people or hire someone new or extra, you can end up not having to pay any of that back. This is an incredible opportunity that's provided by the government under these dire circumstances, because they understand they need to keep people employed. I'm about to wrap this up. Is time a factor? You better know it is, okay? While the applications and the funds have not been released yet, at least as of this afternoon, they have not. We need to be ready. We need to start getting information and documentation together that may be needed to apply. Now, the district is not going to tell you to apply. We're going to tell you this seems to be a wonderful opportunity for the church to receive a financial blessing to help keep people employed during this very difficult time. So what information or documentation may, understand the word may, be required? There is not a list in that act that we have access to that tells us this. But from those that we are talking with, those that we are listening to, here's some information they believe will probably be required. On the financial side, you're going to need to pay payroll information as previously shown, that 12-month formula, okay? That's going to be required. They're going to want to see a 2019 balance sheet and or income statement. They're going to want to receive a copy of your quarterly 941s for the 4 quarters of 2019. The W-2s that you gave out to your employees, and the 1099s that you may have given out for non-employee compensation. Those are probably going to be documents you're going to need when you apply. Also, there's probably going to be a couple corporate documents. It very well could be your articles of incorporation and something that identifies you as being a 501c3 corporation. Now, in the past, we have helped churches several times because we are all under, as far as our churches, we're all under the corporate umbrella of the general council. And so in the past, we've gotten several churches a copy that shows that. I hope you have one. If you do not have something that indicates that, We will try to get it for you if you let us know, but please understand the general counsel office is closed. There may or may not be someone there that we can help secure that for you, or you can try calling yourself. It usually comes out of the general secretary's office. And if it's not there, they'll direct you to the department that will help you with that. But that's probably going to be needed along the way. Now, close with this. Is help available? There is help available with this. It seems like it's too good to be true that these funds are out there. So on the time frame, is there a time crunch? Here's what you need to know. If you want to apply for this, when the applications are out there, okay, and the instructions of what's needed, when we get those details, there are almost 6 million small businesses in America eligible for these funds. Even if half of them apply, that half applying would more than eat up the $349 billion available. So time is of an essence. And because this is not some usual church business, if you want some help, there is a CPA firm that we know that's made themselves available to assist any churches with the application process. Now, they will charge a small fee, but it is very reasonable, okay? As we go, here is their website. It's Cheney Associates. Their website is right here. So there's a small fee that will go, that they will charge. It, again, it's very reasonable. It's based on the size of your church. And I have someone texting me, Brother Terrell, thank you so much. He's read that they will also need our employee identification number. Okay. Thank you, Brother Todd, so much for that. So this organization, if you contact them, let them know you want their help. They'll give you the checklist. They'll help you with the application. They will then actually walk it through a lending institution for you. So it probably won't be in your town. It probably won't be at your bank, but they are available to help you. Okay. We have talked with them. We are not afraid to recommend them if you're willing to pay a little bit for the help. There's some other resources, things that are going to talk about all of these details that we're covering with you. You see these various places on your screen. Coronavirus.ag.org. Our own fellowship is staying on top of all these things. Influence Magazine on Facebook. Today, George P. Wood did a wonderful interview with Dr. Hammer, and they went through all of these details. You can look, we're posting a lot of these things on our own district website. And then there's one more CPA firm, Vanderblumen.com has got some great information with all these details to help you go through this. It may be challenging to apply, okay? You may not want to go through it by yourself, but it looks like to us that it may be worth trying to get the funds. We just need to get to the head of the line as quickly as possible. Don't wait. Don't pass it up. If you decide you want to go for this, then don't delay when you're going to do it, okay? So Brother Superintendent, I gave a lot of things here, took a lot of time. My apologies.
Wow.
There have been a lot of texts and things I haven't been able to look at, but if there are any questions, we'll do our best to answer those, okay?
Well, listen, first of all, let me tell you, I think that's one of the best presentations I've heard. I've listened to so many, and that is so concise. Mark Jakelski, you are a gift to the West Florida District of the Assemblies of God and to all of us. We appreciate you very, very much, and I know that's
Brother Tommy, as you're talking, could Craig just scroll back and put up a couple screens?
Sure.
One, the CPA firm.
Yeah.
And
keep that one up. That's fine.
All right, that one, and then just a moment here, then the other documents that may be needed. People are asking, could we see that? We can post this PowerPoint stuff. We can post it on our website so they can go to it anytime.
Absolutely. We'll put this on the website. The video of this will be on the website also. which if, someone was asking, could they share the presentation slides? Sure you can. I'd probably share the video. We'll probably let the raw video go ahead and stay up, but maybe during the night or tomorrow we can edit out the problems at the front of it and make it look a little bit cleaner. And we'll try to have a cleaner video up within the next 24 hours maybe. But right now, we'll leave all of this up. You can certainly show it to your team. And I think that's great, Mark. Phenomenal presentation. I listened to Richard Hammer this morning. I've been on the Cheney calls. I've been on the other calls and listened to so much stuff the last few days, but that was very clarifying. And great job, Brother Mark. Great job.
Thank you.
That's what we're here for. We're just here to try to help you. Again, we keep saying it, but it's just unprecedented times that we're in, and we don't really know tomorrow what holds. This will probably be the most unusual looking Easter that we have ever experienced as a church. And what's all this going to look like over the next few weeks? I don't know, but I do know that God is in control, and we are confident in that. And we're standing on His promises, and we know that He is not going to forsake us and that He's with us. And we want to help you. And please don't hesitate to ask if you've got issues or questions. Again, Brother Mark and his team,
okay.
They are.
So while we're here, some are asking if they can use tax-exempt certificates as proof of a 501c3. I don't know the answer to that. I will certainly check. Obviously, our tax-exempt certificate
that's a state document. 501c3 is a federal document, right?
Yeah, and that's my concern there. I mean, it does prove that we are tax exempt. I don't know if that'll qualify for what the federal government's going to be looking for, but I'll ask that question, and we'll post that along as well. Someone has asked again, can you clarify the $100,000 limit? Yes. So if an employee makes more than $100,000 in compensation, you cannot use the excess of the 100,000 in your computations. Okay.
Right.
So there's just a limit there, and senior pastors of larger churches could easily make more than that, but you're only allowed to claim 100,000. There's a limit on that. That's what that is. I hope that answers that question.
Yeah. That's it. Anybody that maxes out, I mean, when they get to the 100,000, that maxes their line to be added into the group.
And that's total benefits, everything. So,
yeah.
Okay.
Very good. Well, if you go to Influence Magazine's Facebook page or to influencemagazine.ag.org and look at the information that Richard Hammer shared this morning, it's good. It goes into some of the personal stuff that everybody's going to be getting, the personal rebates that are coming. That's interesting, and I think exciting for some folks as well. Let me just add that I'm sorry, Craig, I'm hearing an echo. I don't know if it's everybody or not. I know, buddy, you're doing a great job. Thank you so much. Craig, you're a gift too. We couldn't get out what we get out without you mashing all the right buttons and telling us what to do. So we are forever grateful, let me assure you. But let me just mention this. We are still working on a proposed package to the Presbytery Board for some additional relief just in-house, in family here with the West Florida District, with our churches, our ministers, if some of this doesn't work. But we'd sure love for you to take advantage of this. And we're going to send Brother Bill to school on all of this through Brother Mark's School of Coronavirus Relief Fund Education. And Brother Bill will be able to help our DCA pastors as much as he can with this process and how we're going to do that. You kind of get into the situation of, is it worth the few $100s that it's going to cost to get Cheney and Associates to do it for you if you don't have, that large an amount, if 2.5 months worth of salary is not that huge an amount for your church. So there is probably a line in there somewhere where we'd go, I don't know, maybe there's a better way that we can help you. And we may just have to look at some of those case by case. Okay. No.
What rebate are they referring to?
They're I would suppose they are referring to the rebate that's coming from the government for every taxpayer in America. No, has no.
That's all on top of And
it's tax free.
yep.
Uh,
Yep. They
it's
are
unbelievable.
very serious of trying to keep people employed. I mean, this is a major deal.
Yeah,
We
it's huge.
don't need 30 million people unemployed.
Right. It is huge. And they want people to spend money as soon as they can spend money. So they're giving them money to spend.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. I'm still, and it makes my head spin. I'll just be honest with you. The whole thing does, that this would be happening and that the government would be responding the way they have. I think it is unbelievable. And forgive me for keep using the word, but it's unprecedented. I've never seen any response like this. And so it's interesting times. Well, listen, we love you guys. Brother Mark, you have anything else you want to add?
No, just, we're available. Call us if you need us. We don't have all the answers, but we'll certainly do our best to help you. Or we know some people who can.
Yeah. Well, listen, guys, we love you all, guys and gals. We love you all. You're doing a phenomenal job. We're praying every day for you and your families. We're lifting you up. We'll try to keep you posted on Greg. Again, if you got messed up at the first part of the call, Greg Mundus taking a turn for the worse this afternoon, and it's just got our hearts very heavy for him and Sandy today. And we're believing God for a miracle for them. And we got a lot of folks that are struggling, today. And again, while all of this is inconvenient and it's not fun, we're not enjoying any of this. But right now, if we're healthy, we have our health, we have the hope of a future with our families and our churches when this is all over with, then we're not in the worst place we could be today by any means. I think we have to put it in perspective. And I agree, brother. I agree, brother JB. It's much better. I got it. It was good. But let's keep our heads up. Let's try not to be try not to be too down. We could be in a lot worse shape than what we're in today. So we'll continue to monitor what our governor does here in the state. I've gotten several questions about which is the authority. Is it the governor or the president? Well, the best way I can tell it to you is the governor can't say less than the president can, but he can say more than the president can. The president sets the guideline, the base guideline for the nation, and then the governors can add to that anything they want to add. And then to that, in the current state of emergency that we're in, county commissioners, city governments can add to what the governor has said. The further down you come to the chain, the more authority the government has to add a restriction for its particular area during this time. So we're going to have to stay abreast of all of that and watch very closely as we go through it all. Okay. So we won't get in the weeds with all of that this afternoon. We'll be back probably today's Monday. Today's Monday. We'll be either back Wednesday, probably not Wednesday, probably Thursday again with another update that will kind of talk about the regulations. That'll give us time to kind of digest that. Just be watching, see what the president rolls out tomorrow in the details, watch how our governor responds to that. And we'll start trying to have something together. We'll let you know. We're still trying to migrate to our new text format. So hopefully that will happen tomorrow. And when it does, you will start receiving texts that won't come from my personal cell phone anymore. They'll come from a different number, and you'll see that. And that's where you'll start getting all of your text notifications. Although they may be coming, I'll be generating a lot of them on my phone. They'll be going through a new app, and it'll take me about 5 minutes for what right now it takes about 40 minutes to do because it has to be so split up to get to everybody. But anyway, hope that we have that up and can get a little bit more streamlined with that as well. Okay. Well, God bless you. We love you. Let me pray for you before we go. Father, I thank you for my brothers and sisters today. I thank you for our team. Thank you for Brother Mark and the gift that he is to us and the wisdom he's shared today. Lord, we just ask you to please minister to every one of our pastors, every one of our churches today. We're asking for peace that passes understanding, protection in the name of Jesus, and provision during these difficult times. Lord, this is your church. You understand what we need. You know what we need. And we believe that you've already met that need. And we're just going to stand in faith today and believe for it in Jesus' name. We give you all the praise. Give us all a good night's rest and a great day tomorrow. In Jesus' name, amen and amen. Very good. So we will definitely be posting all of the PowerPoint on the website. We will be putting it out there probably in the minister's Facebook page. We'll put it out everywhere that we possibly could. And we will definitely get all the other technical stuff fixed as we keep walking through this. So hopefully we won't have another overload. But we did have 3 platforms this afternoon, so that was the good thing. We were live on our website, we were live in our YouTube channel, and we were live on our Facebook page. So hopefully everybody found us somewhere before it was over. God bless you. We love you. Have a great night.